We should vote to stay. I think we will vote to stay, but it's going to be close. I mean, as you know from here, politics at the moment is pretty unpredictable. It's the same both sides of the Atlantic, and there's a referendum, it's in or out. It's a very simple choice. So there are real risks, obviously, but I think in the end the British people are sensible enough that they won't take the risk of leaving and break up.
Isn't it a really big risk to break away and not have the support of the entire European Union? I mean, what will that look like for the UK if, in fact, it goes that way?
Right, that's a good point. I mean, it'll look painful, and it'll be painful because we'll need then to negotiate a whole lot of trade agreements with the EU. I mean, over half our trade is with the European Union at the moment. We're part of the single market there. You break that up, obviously, it's a big penalty for the country.
Have you ever seen this kind of vitriol? I mean, you've got, you know, this debate going on in America,
right,
but it's a similar situation on different levels,
similar,
right?
Yeah, it's very, very similar. People are angry, they're frustrated, they want to, in a sense, rattle the cage of the people in power, all of which I completely understand, but at a certain point you need answers as well as anger, and you know, you need to take level-headed decisions. So you know, I hope and believe that we will vote to stay. If we don't, by the way, I think Scotland would almost certainly vote to leave Britain as well. So this is a double you know, double test in a sense.
It's unbelievable what's going on in the world.
I actually find it really, you know, I've got such a long experience in politics, but I'm kind of looking at politics today, whether on the left or the right, and I sort of think, maybe I just don't understand it anymore. But, but in the end, look, I think people ultimately, because this is partly to do with great waves of emotion, which are partisan, but then you've got a big centre ground in politics as well. And that tends to reassert itself at election times or big decisions like this referendum in the UK.
But when you've got somebody like a Boris Johnson, I mean, who's incredibly widely popular on the side of, yeah, let's leave the EU, that's got to sway some people, right?
It might do, but on the other hand, you know, the Prime Minister is going to be standing up with a lot of support as well, and the support of the majority of the business community for sure. And I think in the end, this is a very, you know, it's a choice that's political, obviously. It's about the destiny of Britain, but it's also economic.
And we should point out that it's impacting markets. I mean, the pound falling to the lowest level in almost 7 years after the Bank of England policy makes that uncertainty clear.
Yeah, so we should take that as a lesson as to what would happen if we actually voted.
Let me ask you about the U.S. presidential race, obviously a hot topic. When I travel overseas, it's the first thing people want to know. What's going on with this election? What's your view, especially since now Donald Trump is looking like he's going to be the nominee for the Republican Party?
Look, who you elect is up to you. You know, it's the choice of the American people, so I don't want to get into who should be president and so on. It's an American decision. I think what people want, obviously, is people want an America that's strong and clear and can build alliances in the world. And, you know, who you end up choosing, I mean, there's a long way always to go in your races, and they take a long time. You know, our elections, I think usually we have a 4 or 5 week election period. Yours goes on a little longer. But what tends to happen during the course of that period is that things iron themselves out. But I have to say right now, you know, around the world, and this is true not just in the UK or the US, but all over Europe, you've got very big developments, sort of left and right, that pull the politics to what appear to be unusual and very populist positions. And I think it's part of the way the world is with all the uncertainty. People kind of feel that they want leadership that is different. And
do you think the uncertainty is justified? I mean, when you look at the economy, 8 years after the financial crisis right now, I mean, shouldn't we be at a better place in terms of job creation, in terms of economic growth?
Yeah, we should be. But, you know, the thing is, a lot of people's incomes aren't rising in real terms. They're
not feeling a recovery.
Yeah, and it's the same everywhere. And also people feel a sense of anxiety. I mean, I think even though we appear to have got through the worst of the financial crisis, there's still a very severe feeling of concern and worry amongst people. And you see this in Europe. And so a lot of the European economies are still, even many years after the end of the financial crisis, they're registering very low levels of growth. You've got unemployment rates amongst young people in parts of Europe of, you know, 50%. So this is going to be a very turbulent time, I think, for politics generally.
Very difficult. And then there's Britain's Parliament. I mean, there was a real fight going on in Scotland about even admitting Donald Trump in the country. What do you think about Parliament debating banning Donald Trump from coming into the UK?
Well, our Parliament's a bit like your Congress in the sense that anyone can raise anything, but I don't. Look, there's not a majority opinion that says that, even if people disagree with some of the things that Donald Trump's said. I mean, you know, as I say, it's up to you who you elect as president.
I mean, I think he threatened that he would, you know, take his real estate out of the UK, so he took it up as well, you know. Yeah,
well, it's no, you watch. The one thing that is clear, by the way, is that there is a fascination about it. I mean,
But how do the British feel about Donald Trump?
I don't know how they feel, but they're probably like most people, and like most of you here, somewhat surprised. Let's put it in a diplomatic and neutral way. But you know, in the end, we've got to work out what it is that's driving those. You know, people like me who were very much in the centre ground of politics. You know, we've got to. You know, one of the things I believe is the centre's got to become much more muscular, much more radical in the solutions we offer. We've got to understand the anger that people feel. We've got to understand their anxieties. Now, I think our job is to provide answers and not just surges of anger. But, you know, we've got to wake up to the fact that politics today is very different, and there are real reasons for that. And if you don't respond to that as a politician, you're not capturing where people are.